If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Salamanders Forgefather Seekers Overview. This video is an overview of the new Space Marine Forgefather Seekers Detachment. The new detachment is even more Salamanders focused than the Firestorm Assault Force. It does have a lot of the same rules as the Firestorm Assault Force, with a bit more support for torrent weapons and overall shooting of the army. We will take a look at the detachment from ground up like it is a brand new detachment. We have top units for our unit roles, how the detachment plays, example lists, and more. We have a new Vulkan He'stan Model and a new detachment. It's a good time to be a Salamanders player. Let's take a look at the Space Marine Army Rule and then the Forgefather Seekers Detachment Rule. The Space Marine Army Rule is Oath of Moment. If your army faction is Adeptus Astartes, at the start of your command phase, select one unit from your opponent's army. Until the start of your next command phase, that enemy unit is your Oath of Moment target. Each time a model with this ability makes an attack that targets your Oath of Moment target, you can re-roll the hit roll. If your army does not include one or more units with the Black Templars, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Death Watch, or Space Wolves keywords, add 1 to the wound roll as well. The Salamanders are not in that list, so we will benefit from the +1 to the wound roll from the Oath of Moment. A great army rule. Re-roll the hit roll for our entire army. It is only into one enemy unit, but that one enemy unit is in trouble. Salamanders being a non-divergent chapter means we do get that +1 to the wound roll, a very strong buff. Re-roll hits and +1 to the wound can output some insane damage into that enemy unit. The key to using this ability is making sure we are not using this on enemy units that we could take out without this big damage buff. We only get one enemy unit a turn, make it count. Oath of Moment giving +1 to the wound is good for this detachment. Salamanders like their torrent weapons. Torrent weapons auto hit, so reroll hits does not help them. Eradicators are kind of the same. They reroll their hits, wounds, and damage when shooting vehicles or monsters. Like Firestorm Assault Force, we can use Crucible of Battle for 1 CP to have +1 to the wound on 2 different enemy units in this detachment. When playing Salamanders in this detachment, take a little extra time to decide where you want to put Oath of Moment, since we do have a lot of auto-hitting torrent weapons usually in our Salamanders lists. Next up is the Forgefather Seekers Detachment Rule, and there are 2 different parts to this detachment rule. The first part is Vulkan's Quest. Ranged weapons equipped by Adeptus Astartes models from your army have the Assault ability, and each time an attack is made with such weapon that targets a unit within 12 inches, add 1 to the strength of that attack. That is the same rule as Firestorm Assault Force Detachment Rule Close Range Eradication, just with a different name. The second part of this detachment rule is Seeker's Companions. If your army includes Vulkan He'stan, during your turn, each Inferno Squad unit from your army is eligible to do one of the following. Either start to perform an action in a turn in which it advanced, or shoot in a turn in which it performed actions. This detachment with Vulkan really buffs up the Inferno Squad. Vulkan also has his ability that increases the OC of the Inferno Squads by 1 per model. That's on Vulkan himself though, not part of the detachment rule. There is a restriction with this one. Your army can include Salamanders units, but it cannot include any Adeptus Astartes units drawn from any other chapter. So you have to use Salamanders when using this detachment. This detachment rule gives any Adeptus Astartes models in your army the Assault ability. We will be able to advance and shoot with any Adeptus Astartes model in a Forgefather Seekers list. Those models will also gain +1 strength to their ranged weapons into targets within 12 inches. Great for those strength 4 torrent weapons and strength 9 Melta weapons. Forgefather Seekers is a shooting detachment. We only have one stratagem that can buff the melee damage of the army. The detachment rule works on vehicles, mounted, and infantry, any Adeptus Astartes model. Forgefather Seekers really seems to be pushing the Infernus torrent weapons. I've been using the Infernus Marines a lot over the last 6 months or so. Even before this detachment, I found them to be a great unit in a Salamanders list. The Pyroblaster is D6 shots, strength 5, AP 1, damage 1 with ignores cover. The detachment rule will bring it up to strength 6. Great synergy with other rules in the detachment. Now they can advance and do actions, or shoot and do actions as well. I really like how this detachment is leaning into our torrent weapons and actually leaning into certain units like the Inferno Squad. Next up is the 4 enhancements for the Forgefather Seekers Detachment. Our first enhancement is Adamantine Mantle, Adeptus Astartes model only. Each time an attack is allocated to the bearer, subtract 1 from the damage of that attack. If the attack was made with a Melta or Torrent weapon, change the damage of that attack to 1 instead. This is a good enhancement for keeping an important character on the table longer for buffing his unit. Also a good choice for any solo character such as a Gravis Captain or Lieutenant with a combi weapon, giving them some extra survivability. The reduced Melta and Torrent is more situational, handy when it comes up. -1 to all incoming damage is why we are taking this enhancement. Next up is Forged in Battle, Adeptus Astartes model only. While the bearer is leading a unit, once per turn after making a hit roll or saving throw for a model in that unit, you can change the result of that roll to an unmodified 6. It can be used for defense or offense. Need a 6 to save a high damage attack, roll for the 6. If we don't get it, turn it into a 6. The same for offense. I was thinking about the Apothecary and Gravis, our Apothecary Biologist, attached to the Eradicators. Roll a 6 for lethal hits or change 1 to a 6. The best part of this enhancement is that it can be used once per turn, not once per battle round, one of the very few left out in the wild. We do have a nice choice of enhancements in this detachment. Then we have Immolator, Adeptus Astartes model only. Add 1 to the attacks of Torrent weapons equipped by models in the bearer's unit. I like this enhancement. It adds to the Torrent weapon and shooting theme of this detachment. The obvious choice is a Gravis Captain attached to some aggressors. D6 +2 Flamestorm gauntlets, yes please. I do want to bring our attention to the Librarian. I think the Librarian attached to a big 10-man Inferno squad is a great pick for Immolator. That will be 10 D6 +1 Torrent shots, while the Librarian gives the unit a 4+ invulnerable and a 4+ Phenol Pain to psychic damage. And yes, that does include mortal wounds inflicted by psychic attacks. The last enhancement is War Tempered Artifice, Adeptus Astartes infantry model only. Add 3 to the strength of the bearer's melee weapons. We can make some fun smash captains with this enhancement. We are not much of a melee powerhouse in this detachment. Having a strong melee character to help deal with other strong melee threats can be helpful in a list. The Gravis Captain can use this to bring the Power Fist up to Strength 11, AP 2, Damage 2. It is a shame it is not Strength 4. Strength 11 does help against those Toughness 10 vehicles and monsters, but it will struggle into Toughness 12 targets. Those are the 4 enhancements for the Forgefather Seekers detachment. Let's move on to the 6 stratagems. Next is the 6 stratagems for the Forgefather Seekers detachment. Our first stratagem is Armor of Content. In your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase, 1 Adeptus Astartes unit until the end of the phase. Each time attack that targets your unit, worsen the armor penetration of that attack by 1. -1 AP can be a powerful defensive buff, even more so if the unit is in cover. We do have to be careful. This only works against 1 enemy unit that targets our Salamanders unit. In the fight phase, it is more rare to be charged by multiple units, making it a bit more safe on use. The shooting phase, we need to make sure we are not using this on a low AP, low damage attack, only to have an enemy unit with a lot of AP 2, damage 2 shots coming our way. Plan where you want to use Armor of Contempt. Next up is Blazing Earth. At the start of your opponent's charge phase, 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army equipped with 1 or more Torrent weapons. Select 1 enemy unit, excluding monster or vehicle units, and units with the Fly keyword, within 12 inches and visible to your unit until the end of the phase. Each time that enemy unit declares a charge, subtract 2 from the charge roll. And this cannot stack with other negative modifiers to the charge roll. We can't have -2 and then use something else to get another -2 to make -4. It doesn't stack, it's always at -2 when we use this stratagem. Now there will be times if we only have 1 CP where using Overwatch to outright kill or cripple the enemy will be the better play. This is not a totally wasted stratagem though. There will be plenty of times when using this will be the better play. Anything that will laugh off the Torrent shots, -2 to the charge might be the better option. A tough, hard-hitting melee unit attempts a 9-inch charge out of Deep Strike, or the Death Shroud Terminators with their 6-inch Deep Strike charge. 1 CP could make those charges 2 inches longer, which could be the difference between losing the unit and keeping the unit on the table. A 9-inch charge into an 11-inch charge is awful. Next up is our only transport stratagem, Burning Vengeance. In your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has shot, one Adeptus Astartes transport unit from your army that was selected as a target of one or more of that attacking unit's attacks. One unit embarked inside the transport can disembark as if it were your movement phase, and then can shoot as if it were your shooting phase. It must target only that enemy unit that shot at the transport when doing so, and can only do so if the enemy unit is an eligible target. Burning Vengeance is the only stratagem that needs a transport unit in our entire detachment. I'm happy to say it is a fun yet powerful stratagem. It all depends on what we put inside the transport. A Land Raider Redeemer is a great yet expensive transport, insane overwatch, along with scary anti-infantry damage. Eradicators, Hellblasters, or any infantry unit with a powerful long-range weapon, jumping out of a Land Raider to shoot back is a fun and powerful stratagem. Don't jump out only to get shot to death or charged and chopped up. Make sure you look around before you jump out, that you're not just going to jump that unit out and get it killed. Next up is Crucible of Battle in the shooting phase or the fight phase. One Adeptus Astartes infantry unit, so we can't use this on vehicles. Each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets the closest eligible target within 6 inches, add 1 to the wound roll. One of the best stratagems in the detachment, it is what adds some of the power to the detachment. +1 to the wound onto torrent weapons and melee attacks is a strong buff to a unit. The Salamanders have access to Oath of Moment with the +1 to the wound roll. We have 2 ways to get +1 to the wound roll in the Forgefather Seekers detachment. We do need to be within 6 inches and the closest eligible target. It leans into our get close and shoot them to death detachment theme. It also makes it a bit harder to pull off than it seems. 6 inches away, we want to make sure the opponent is going to be dead. We are not a combat army. The less counter charges we receive, the better. We can advance to get inside the 6 inches and use Crucible of Battle for 1 CP. There are no rules in our detachment to advance and charge, only advance and shoot. Much easier to use in the fight phase. Aggressors and Blade Guard with Ajax come to mind when using Crucible of Battle in the fight phase. Our next stratagem is Immolation Protocols for 2 CP. In your shooting phase, one Adeptus Astartes unit, so we can use this on vehicles. Until the end of the phase, torrent weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Devastating Wounds ability. This stratagem is going to be the most powerful weapon in our arsenal. Other times, we'll be lucky to singe the enemy boots. 6s can spike, so can the torrent weapons we use this stratagem on. Spend 2 CP on 6 aggressors, that's not a lot of total shots for 6s to the wound. And Furnace Marines with Vulkan, giving them reroll the wound roll, can output some scary damage if they spike. 10 Infernus Marines with D6 shots and reroll wounds, these can spike and do a lot of damage. This is where the Immolator enhancement comes into play, more guaranteed chances for mortal wounds. It is also where the choice of Gravis Captain comes up again. We could put Immolator on the Gravis Captain and then use Rites of Battle to reduce the cost of Immolation Protocols by 1 CP, going from 2 CP down to 1 CP. I really like how we have some moving parts between our rules and our unit choices. The last stratagem for the Forgefather Seekers is Wrathful Inferno. Your movement phase, just after an Adeptus Astartes unit from your army falls back, until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back. Fall back and shoot. This is exactly what we need in this detachment. We have ways to get up close to shoot, now we have a way to disengage from melee combat to deliver more Torrent and Melta hugs. Fall back and shoot is not quite fall back, shoot and charge. For a mainly shooting detachment, having at least fall back and shoot is a must. We can also add a lieutenant to a unit to gain fall back, shoot and charge if we need to. 1 CP to fall back and shoot is a great addition to the Forgefather Seekers. Those were all the rules for the new Forgefather Seekers detachment. Let's take a look at some of the top units we can use when building a list. How to play Forgefather Seekers. Forgefather Seekers is very similar to the Firestorm Assault Force. They even share 4 stratagems and 3 enhancements with the same detachment rule with a different name. There are 2 other stratagems and 1 enhancement that push the Forgefather Seekers to be even more of a shooting army than the Firestorm Assault Force detachment. More reason to take Torrent and Melta weapons, along with much less you need to take transports. I feel the Salamanders have more of an identity with the Forgefather Seekers detachment. Our rule set wants us to be in your face with close to medium range shooting. We have a detachment rule to advance and shoot our entire army, plenty of rules to buff the Torrent and Melta weapons, a fallback and shoot stratagem, no fallback and charge stratagem though. The Forgefather Seekers rules want us to be up close and personal, to unleash Torrent and Melta death, although it does leave us with a problem. What if the unleashed death was not enough? The counterattack will hurt. There's not many defensive buffs for the Salamanders in this detachment. The skill in this army and detachment will be figuring out how to get our units to deal the maximum damage while being able to survive the counterattack. Most Torrent and Melta are on Space Marine infantry with no invulnerable saves between toughness 4 and 6 with a 3+ save. Our army will crumble fast if we advance everything right onto the open to get our shots off while leaving ourselves vulnerable. We have a very strong Overwatch threat. Use it to zone out parts of the board, set up move block and charge blocks. We want to shoot first. We don't want to be charged and have to use our fallback and charge stratagem. We want to at least get our shots off first. We are not like the Custodies or even other Space Marine detachments. Forgefather Seekers was made to deal damage, not take damage. Now we'll talk a little bit about list building. I try to select units from the following unit types: primary, utility, and attack. Now these are not keywords you will find on the datasheet. These are my own category for units I use when building a list. Primary to pressure objectives and score primary, utility to score secondary points as well as add some buffs or abilities to help other units. Finally, my attack units. These units I will use to attack the enemy scoring and damage dealing units. These may seem simple, but they can make the difference between a bad list and a good list. Too many attack units and we do not have enough primary units to hold objectives, to score points, and then lose the game on points. Not enough utility, we may have a good primary score, but still lose by a lot from not scoring any secondary. Each faction and detachment will require a different mix of units. It is not always a 33% total of our points in each of these three categories kind of fix. The Salamanders and Space Marines are meant to be able to do a little bit of everything: shoot, melee, and be tough. Forgefather Seekers is a shooting detachment. Crucible of Battle is the only stratagem that buffs the melee damage. Leaning into the shooting, we'll decide what kind of units and how many units we need in our primary, utility, and attack roles. The Space Marine range is huge. There are many different units we can use to fill these list roles. Some are better than others, and let's take a look at some of those units. Here are some of the top characters for the Salamanders in the Forgefather Seekers detachment. Our first character is Adrax Agatone, one of the two Salamanders named characters. Adrax is a melee-focused character. He gives his unit melee weapons, reroll the wounds, which pairs well with the Blade Guard veterans. He also reduces the OC of enemy units within engagement range by half. It does not hurt that he's a great-looking model. Taking one of these two Salamander characters is what locks us into the Salamanders chapter. No Ultramarine characters or any others can be taken when we take Adrax or Vulkan, or even use the Forgefather Seekers detachment. Next up is Vulkan He'stan, the second of our two Salamanders characters, and I would say Vulkan is the better of the two in this detachment. He adds utility and damage to the Salamanders list. Any Infernus Marine models in the list gains 1 extra OC when we take him in the list. He can get any Torrent or Melta weapon in our army into one enemy unit with his Forgefather ability. On top of it all, he can be an absolute tank to take off his Seeker of the Unfound objective. When Vulkan is on his Seeker of the Unfound objective, he will be OC 10 with a 4-up Feel No Pain. Next we have the Captain in Gravis armor, a great character joined with the Aggressor Squad or even the Eradicators. He can reduce the CP cost of a stratagem by 1. If we look at the stratagems again, Crucible of Battle for 0 CP or Immolation Protocols from 2 CP down to 1 CP are a great choice for that ability. The last character I want to mention was the Librarian. I like this character to join the Infernus Marines. The Librarian gives the unit a 4+ Feel No Pain to psychic attacks. It is the 4+ invulnerable he adds to the unit is what I really like. The Librarian adds a lot of survivability to the Infernus Marines who normally have a 3+ save. Here are some examples for our unit types. We're going to start with our primary units, and our first primary unit is going to be the Blade Guard Veterans. The Blade Guard Veterans are one of the few infantry units with a 4+ invulnerable who are not characters or terminators. They do have a decent melee threat. It is a shame it's not a bit higher than strength 5. Into tough targets, these are not nearly as deadly. The Blade Guard are one, if not the best unit, to attach to one of our two named characters, Adrax Agatone. Currently 80 points for 3 or 160 for 6, they are quite cheap for a 3 wound, 4+ invulnerable body. Next up is the Infernus Squad. The Infernus Squad isn't the toughest unit, they do have a very dangerous Overwatch threat. We can attach our other Salamanders character, Vulkan He'stan. When Vulkan is in the list, all the Infernus Marines gain an extra OC, bringing them to OC2, as well as the Detachment Rule, allowing them to either advance into actions or shoot and do an action. Vulkan He'stan can also give the Infernus Marines reroll the wound roll into that one enemy target. Crucible of Battle for 1 CP can give them +1 to the wound roll as well. And even Oath of Moment will give them +1 to the wound when they're shooting the Oath of Moment target. Our next two units, we have the Company Heroes. I wanted to mention this unit since they do make a good bodyguard unit for Adrax Agatone, or even better, Vulkan He'stan. It is a bit expensive at 105 points, but it is a great unit to keep Vulkan safe. Last up, we have the Intercessor Squad. These are great for holding objectives. They can sticky objectives and then move on to grab another objective or do a secondary action. Next up is the secondary utility units. Our first unit is the Scout Squad, one of the best units we have in the Space Marine line for utility. They have the Infiltrate ability and the Uppy Downy ability. If there are no enemy models within 6 inches of the Scout Squad at the end of the opponent's turn, we can remove them from the board, placing them into reserves, and then bring them back on the board in our following turn. We almost need these when using a transport heavy list in this detachment. It helps stop the opponent from move blocking our transports in our deployment. Next is the Infiltrators. These are one of the best units for keeping our home objective safe from enemy reserves. A 12-inch deny reserves bubble is fantastic in the days of 10th edition with 6-inch deep strikes and entire uppy downy armies. Salamander's list using the Forgefather Seekers is a close to medium range shooting army. We don't like to turn around to rush back to defend our home objective. Infiltrators help keep us pushing forward. For the most part, we equip the Helix Gauntlet on our Infiltrators just to give them that extra survivability. There is a character I wanted to mention for the secondary utility units. It is the Lieutenant with the Combi Weapon. A great unit for secondary scoring, cheaper than an allied assassin while still having the lone operative ability. A built-in reactive normal move if the enemy ends a normal, advanced, or fallback move within 9 inches of our Lieutenant with the Combi Weapon. A good target for the Adamantine Mantle enhancement to give this lone up Lieutenant -1 to the incoming damage. On to the attack units. Our first attack unit is going to be the Eradicators. This is one of the best anti-tank infantry in the game. They can have 2 Melta rifles and 1 multi-Melta per 3 models, up to 6 models in a unit. Strength 9, AP 4, damage D6 with Melta 2. The Detachment Rule will bring it up to Strength 10 within 12 inches. They have the ability to reroll their hit, wound, and damage into vehicle and monster units. They wear Gravis armor, which makes them the slower 5-inch movement with a toughness of 6 and 3 wounds per model. Next up is the Aggressors. These are one of my favorite Space Marine units. Luckily, it is a good unit for the Salamanders. They are a bit pricey. As of right now, they are 100 points for a unit of 3 or 220 for a unit of 6. We prefer the Flamestorm Gauntlets in the Forgefather Seekers Detachment. The Aggressors are chunky models at toughness 6 with 3 wounds each. A 3+ save with no invulnerable does make them hard to kill with small arms fire, but easy to kill with AP2 damage 3 attacks. Once this unit has lost some models, the overall unit threat goes way down. I still recommend having at least 6 Aggressors in your Salamanders collection. The last for our attack unit examples is our tanks/dreadnoughts. The Forgefather Seekers Detachment really gives all of our Space Marine models the assault ability. We can advance and shoot our entire army as long as they are Adeptus Astartes unit. It does give our anti-tank guns some potential extra range and movement. Tanks like the Vindicator, who have a 24-inch range gun, advance and shoot is very helpful on the Vindicator. I like to run Ballistus Dreadnoughts with my Forgefather Seekers as well, and having advance and shoot on that unit, it helps us get into range and into line of sight of enemy units. Here I have some example lists for the new Forgefather Seekers Detachment. We have 3 2,000 point lists and 2 1,000 point lists. Our first 2,000 point list is going to be an infantry based list. I've called this list Boots and Guns, and it comes to 2,000 points. My warlord is Vulkan He'stan. For the other characters, we do have Ajax Agatone, a lieutenant with the combi weapon with the adamantine mantle, a librarian with the Forge and Battle enhancement, and another librarian with the immolator enhancement. For the battle line, I have 2 units of 5 intercessors. Each one of those intercessor squads has a hand flamer and thunderhammer. For the other datasheets, we do have a 3-man unit of aggressors with the Flamestorm gauntlets, 3 Blade Guard veterans, 2 3-man eradicator squads with 1 multi-melta and 2 melta rifles in each one of those units, 3 big 10-man units of Inferno squads, a 3-man Inceptor squad with the Plasma Exterminators, a 5-man Infiltrator squad with the Helix gauntlets, and to round it out, a 5-man Terminator squad, 4 Power Fist, 1 Chain Fist, and the Cyclone missile launcher as the heavy weapon. And that's the list, and it comes to 2,000 points. The next 2,000 point list is a shooting heavy list. I've named this list Kill It With Fire, and it comes to 2,000 points. Warlord once again is Vulkan He'stan. For the other characters, we do have Ajax Agatone, an Apothecary Biologist with the Forge and Battle enhancement, and a Librarian with the Immolator enhancement. Battle line is a 5-man Intercessor squad, 1 Hand Flamer, and 1 Thunderhammer in that unit. For the other datasheets, we do have 2 3-man units of aggressors with the Flamestorm gauntlets, a big 6-man Blade Guard veteran squad to join up with Ajax Agatone, 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts, a 6-man Eradicator squad with 2 multi-meltas and 4 melta rifles in the unit, and that will join up with the Apothecary Biologist, 2 10-man Inferno squads, 1 will join Vulkan, the other will join the Librarian, a 5-man Inferno squad, and to round it out we do have a Land Raider Redeemer, and that will carry around the Apothecary Biologist with the Eradicators. That's my shooting heavy 2,000 point list. Kill it with fire. The last 2,000 point example list is going to be a transport heavy list. I've named this one Need a Taxi. Our warlord is Vulkan He'stan. For the other characters, we do have Ajax Agatone and a Librarian with the Immolator enhancement. Battle line is a 5-man Assault Intercessor squad. For the other datasheets, we do have 2 3-man units of aggressors with Flamestorm gauntlets in each one of those units, a big 6-man Blade Guard veteran unit to join up with Ajax Agatone, a Ballistus Dreadnought, a big 6-man Eradicator squad, 2 multi-meltas and 4 melta rifles in that unit, 2 10-man Inferno squads, 1 to join Vulkan, the other to join the Librarian, a 5-man Infiltrator squad with the Helix Gauntlet, and for transports we do have a Land Raider Redeemer and a Repulsor Executioner. That's my 2,000 point Need a Taxi transport list. Let's move on to our 1,000 point list. The first 1,000 point list is going to be Kill It With Fire, so this is going to be a shooting list, and it comes to 1,000 points. Our warlord is Vulkan He'stan. For our other characters, we do have Ajax Agatone, a Librarian with the Immolator enhancement. Battle line is 2 5-man Intercessor squads. Each one of those squads has a Hand Flamer and Thunderhammer. For the other datasheets, we do have a Ballistus Dreadnought, a big 6-man Blade Guard unit, a 3-man unit of Eradicator squads, and 2 5-man Inferno squads. And that's the list, and it comes to 1,000 points. The second 1,000 point list is going to be a transport list. Once again, I've named this one Taxi Time. For our warlord, we have Vulkan He'stan. For the other characters is Ajax Agatone, a lieutenant with the combi weapon with the Forge and Battle enhancement. Battle line is a 5-man Intercessor squad with the Hand Flamer and Thunderhammer. For the other datasheets, we do have the big 6-man Blade Guard veterans to join up with Ajax Agatone, a 3-man Eradicator squad with 1 multi-melta and 2 melta rifles in the squad, a 5-man Inferno squad, a Repulsor Executioner with the Heavy Laser Destroyer, and for our dedicated transports, we do have an Impulsor with the Heavy Stubber and the Orbital Comms Array. Those are my 5 example lists for the new Salamanders Forgefather Seekers Detachment. Let's finish the video with some final thoughts. That was a full breakdown of the Forgefather Seekers Detachment. I know a lot of the rules are the same. I am overjoyed. I will not be stuck running transports all the time in a Salamanders Detachment. Maybe Firestorm Assault Force will get an overhaul. I think if they added some survivability to the army, it would go a long way to make the 2 detachments feel different. One to deal damage with the Forgefather Seekers, and one to take damage with the Firestorm Assault Force. How do my fellow Salamanders feel about this detachment? Now I have Grey Knights and Salamanders I need to get on the table. Subscribe for battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Channel members gain early access to videos and an invite to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.